Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot. The comic spot. Everybody's talking at the comic spot. The comic spot.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Tommy.
Hey.
Welcome everybody. This is Mac James from Stand Up for News, doing Linda Marcus Smith's 1000th interview. Her guest today is the amazing Tommy Chong. Give it up.
Thank you. And you're doing who?
Linda Marcus Smith.
Lucky you.
Yeah, right.
Lucky you.
How are you, Tommy?
I'm here. I'm fine. I'm ready to go.
Awesome. How's
I've
life?
I've had my 16 hours sleep, and so I'm ready. I'm ready to move.
16 hours. I brought
16.
one of these with me.
16.
Looks
I
like a
can't.
toothpick,
I'm
right?
on a sabbatical. I have to stop smoking for a bit. I have a little bit of a cough, so I lose the cough. So I admire you. I wish I could. Know what I can do. I can do my Chong
You got edibles or something?
Gummies.
Oh, hell
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
3 legal, 3.5% THC, but they're being sold over the counter legally. Texas, New Mexico, California, all over the world.
Is
Nice.
that your brand?
Cheech and Chong Cruise Chews are called.
Awesome.
Mm. And they work, not as instant as the joint, but I'm looking forward to it. I quit. Every now and then I quit so I can have the thrill of smoking it starting again.
My
I'm
buddy
the
Corey
same way
Wilson's
with
doing that.
sex.
Yeah.
Yeah, my buddy's on a sabbatical. My buddy Corey Wilson won't smoke for a couple months, he said.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that's the great thing about our product. It is not addicting. I had to prove that when I went to prison, because they would drug test me almost every 5 minutes almost, because they were so sure that I was going to be violating my prison rules. But I'm a stickler for rules, man. You give me rules, I'll follow them, because I found in life that's the quickest way to peace and serenity.
I'm
Just
very-
follow the rules.
Me too. I love following. Tell me what the rules are. I'll follow, but don't mess with me and not tell me the rules till after.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Change
trap.
the rules either, right?
Speed trap.
I
That's
hate
a
when people
speed
change
trap.
the rules on me.
Yeah, well, they try to change. People always try to do that. But the original, I just watched a bit on George Carlin, and he's making fun of the 10 Commandments, and he's saying, you don't need 10, very arbitrarily. and because I'm not, I enjoy Carlin's take on it. It was very rebellious during his time here.
Yes.
But I've learned the power. I've learned the power of the Almighty. I've learned you can joke, you can do whatever you want, but the word God itself has so much power, so much meaning. And if you have faith, then it's everything. That's what I found. It will give you the answers. It's like having, I call it a God app. We all have a God app. And if you know how to activate it, which is very simple, it just takes a thought, just one thought, and you're in. Like the Wi-Fi. It's a perfect Wi-Fi. But unless you take that thought, unless you direct your thoughts and your attention, toward where you're going, you can stumble and fall.
That's right. That's right. There's so much power just in the name of God and saying the name. And, I know, like, my dad was Jewish, and the strict Jewish people don't even believe in saying the name of God, but there's so much power in saying it. So,
Yeah. Well, saying it out loud can, especially if it's done in jest or in with a negative connotation, it can backfire, because it really shows what's inside. What you say, what comes out of your mouth shows what's inside, the thinking process. And in that way, and the thing is, it's so personal. It's so personal.
isn't that
Because
amazing how the being of the entire universe can be so personal to one person?
it is totally personal. But that's what we are. We're a collection of a lot of little individual souls. And you know what I found out too, that I love these podcasts because I can, there people are interested in what I found out.
Yes.
I found out how, first of all, why the electric car was so important. And then when you take the electric car, that's solving our climate issues, because the physical world is really made up of electricity. You have positive and negative, and when they collide, you get power, you get energy, and that's the physical world. So you need both. You can't have one without the other. Yeah, so you need both. However, the spiritual world has neither. No substance, no form. It's the opposite of the physical world. And so what is the opposite of everything? Nothing. So think about this. The spiritual world is small as the physical world is large. If you can keep that thought in your head. It's very hard. It's overwhelming, actually, to think how small the spiritual world really is, because there's no need, want, desire, growth, nothing but love in the spiritual world. In the physical world, everything goes, because that's what the physical world is. It consists of everything. And everything is a lot. There's a lot of everything in our universe. And just think, our universe is just one. There's many, 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 many zillion universes. That is mind-boggling. For a while there, I was confused about the Big Bang Theory, because the Big Bang Theory says we all started with a Big Bang, until I watched the new telescope that's out, and it showed a formation of a Big Bang. It showed an actual explosion in space, exploding star, which is the Big Bang. And when it explodes, it creates a galaxy. And so they've got a record of the galaxy being formed in the universe right now. And so that answered the question, of eternity. We've always been here. There's never been a beginning, and there'll never be an end. In fact, there's only beginnings.
Whoa. When you speak about how small not the physical, but the spiritual is so small, infinitely small, and it's only love. But that only love is infinite. But in the physical, love is so contrite and it's so limited. Like in the physical, we can only love physically to a certain degree, but in the spiritual, there's no end to the love.
That's right. That's totally right. Because there's no need. There's no growth. There's no need. There just is. There just is.
Wow.
And just is can be so tiny because you don't have oxygen to breathe. You don't have food to eliminate. You don't have nothing. It's just a thought. Just think that's what we are. We are smaller than a thought. Isn't that amazing? And we're eternal. And that's why we're eternal, because there's no wear and tear. See, there's nothing to fall apart. It's there. It's perfect. And it's a perfect thought. And that's why when you take this even further, the scripture says, keep your mind on God and he will perfect that which concerns you. And so keep your thoughts on God and whatever. Now, this is the tricky part, because say if you're a bank robber, okay, but you're spiritual and you got your mind on God, that bank robbery will be perfect. It will be perfect. Now, you might say, well, is it morally right? Well, it could be a scenario, say, it was a Nazi-occupied country, and you needed the money to escape with a few hundred refugees, and so you have to rob this bank, and in order to get the wherewithal to do what you need to do. In that scenario, you're not harming, you're helping. And that, to me, that is really the law of the universe, is to help. What's that saying? Fish or cut bait.
Yes, fish or cut bait.
Yeah, fish or cut bait. In other words, do something positive. See, but that's the secret of our life. But we only learn. This is what I learned too, is that the physical world is so violent, and it's filled with conflict. Every time you turn around, there's conflict. Even in the most loving family, there's conflict. Where's my briefcase? What the hell? I had it here and it's not here. And it could be a pastor going to talk to his congregation. Where the hell's that? Come on, I got a sermon there that tells you how to love everybody. Where the hell is you know what I mean? Conflict. And so what you have to do, and this is where forgiveness comes in. This is what I love forgiveness, is because everybody in the physical world is going to make mistakes, because that's the nature of where we're at. That's why you have so many choices. And there's only one right choice, but we have an eternity to make all the wrong ones. There's no reason, because every time you make a wrong choice, you learn something. Whether you want to or not, you learn. First of all, you learn, oh, that was the wrong choice. And then you learn, well, I guess I really didn't need whatever it was I was jonesing for. That's another one. Or it made me look at another alternative. Oh, you know what I'm saying? So it's the mistakes that teach us. It's not the perfection. Perfection is boring. And that's what the spiritual world is. Perfection. And must be pretty boring.
I like getting things, like everything in my apartment is imperfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that, like
Yeah.
I won't get something if I don't get it because it's cheaper. I get it because
There's
that
something
reminds me of myself. What?
because there's something in there. Yeah. You know what the Navajo natives, when they do a rug, they always make a mistake so that the spirit can come out.
Oh my gosh, that is
I
so
always
cool.
think that physical things have energy to them. Like, well, I used to pick up and deliver donations for the Catholic Church in a big truck for them. And like people would throw away the teddy bears and stuff like that. I'm like, somebody created that and it has energy still to it in the physical form.
Yeah. 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 The energy of, but yeah, the learning. Did you work for the Salvation Army?
St. Vincent de Paul.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I was early in my life. I was in. We were put in a home, Salvation Army home, for kids, and I was, I guess, 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. I guess 5. I keep having a thing, but that, when I got put in the Salvation Army home, I had to be on my own. My brother was there, my older brother, but he couldn't help me. And so I was there. That's why the incarceration when I went to jail was no big deal, because I started off in jail.
Me and my little brother were both put in a home too when
Yeah.
we were little.
Yeah. So
We were like 10 and 12.
yeah. And so you learn how to hang with the big guy to protect you.
Right.
That's what I did. I always had the biggest guy there. I would always be in his shadow because then nothing bad could happen. You learn how to survive. But what you learn more than anything is how to deal with rules. That's what I learned. Very early. Just obey the rules, and your life will be a lot easier.
Yes. I love knowing what the rules are. For a long time, I was a corporate trainer at Washington Mutual at downtown Seattle.
Yeah.
And they had so many rules, and I was
Yeah.
training people not to break rules.
Yeah.
And you just get so full of the rules, you just want to tell a joke or something, And so I made up a rule and I put it out in a memo to the whole corporation that from now on, when you use your copiers, you have to key in how many copies, then you hit erase, and then you type in your department number and hit erase. And now you put your number of copies in again and hit go. And everybody was falling for it. They were because they were such robots that they were following stupid rules.
I
Yeah.
personally don't like rules that much, but I have my own, and you got to follow them because they're not going anywhere. So my personal rules are: I'm a bartender. I've been bartending 22 years. I'm the comedian bartender in Tampa Bay, the people's comic. No race, no religion, and no politics at my bar, and no crying. Those are the only 4 rules.
No crying.
If you got a bar full of people, and then I literally had this couple get divorced at my bar. Basically, the guy walked out, she starts crying. Everybody asked for their checks and left, and I had an empty bar like that, just me and her.
Yeah, it's such a bummer. Oh, you'd want to be around that sadness. Yeah.
And if you're crying for joy, that's okay, I guess. But if you're crying for any other reason, you got to get your check and go.
Where do you bartender at?
Right now, I'm at Aviator's Tavern at Holiday Inn on Clearwater by the airport, where
Oh yeah.
they hired me to run entertainment too. So I have a comedy show on Saturdays, and on Sundays we have a mixed talent show. Anything, open mic shows, and we have headliners and features show up, and we have a different host every week.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, there you go. And you're a comedian.
Yep.
Yeah.
You were on my radio show, Stand Up for News, with me and my goofball buddies on that shit show. We had fun though. I think you had fun.
Yeah. Radio, man, that was the old days. It's all
Yeah, we're
changed.
thinking about doing a podcast, but I like doing the radio. I'm old school.
Well, radio, you're making money, you can feel it, Podcast is a little different. You are, but it's not as much. Yeah, I got a buddy that owns radio stations, and he's struggling, but they're still viable, especially in the Latino community and in the Persian community. They need in the Chinese community, they need their voice, their language being done. Yeah, I love radio. In fact, he offered me a show on, but it was more of just a gesture than a serious serious offer. But I love radio. I always have. That was my.
I just think it's fun. The one thing we don't get to do too much is talk about elections on our radio show, because it's on YouTube as well, and they'll take it off YouTube because you're not allowed to talk about elections not being legit. Other than that, they let us do what we want.
Well, there again is rules. Those elections had rules, and as long as those rules were followed, and all this trying to bend the rules, and that's what Trump was trying to do. He just was cheat. He's a cheat. He was just out and out cheater. And he's got no morals. He's got no problem with his with morals. Because he cheats his kids. He cheats his wife, his ex-wives. Everybody gets cheated with this guy. But
it's amazing how people put up with him having no more. I just can't understand how people can be blind to the fact that there's no morals.
No, but what they're doing, they're using them. See, those people, they're being used by the more intelligent people. They're keeping Trump alive. That's why he's not in jail, or he's not being pursued. He's being slow walked, as they call it. Because he's more useful destroying the Republican Party the way he's doing it. And the Democrats, they're smart. They're brilliant people. They know. They got to keep him on the spit. He's being roasted. He doesn't know. They'll roast his ass until he's nothing but bone. I think what they should do, he should be incarcerated at Guantanamo. That should be his Elba. Just put him in Guantanamo and have a little golf course there for him. Just a little sand trap, and he can practice.
Oh, I dropped my harmonica.
It's been a crazy world lately with all the nutty stuff, and the news is crazy, trying to stay positive with all the negative. How do you do it?
You accept the negative.
Okay.
See, you got to remember, karate or martial arts, it's only effective if someone's attacking you.
Wow.
Think of, you can't really attack with martial arts, but when someone attacks you, you can defend yourself by using their negative energy. You see, and that's what we have to do. You see, I've got friends. They put a blind eye to all the bad things Trump did because they were making money off. And then they say, well, I don't like what he does when he does this, but I like his policies. And then they start sprouting lies about Joe Biden. Well, anytime you lie about anybody, and this is the trouble, see, a lie, you're creating an entity, okay? And seeing how you created it, you're the home of that entity. And so that lie goes forth into the cosmos, into the world, but it has nowhere to land because there's no truth that will attract it. And so that lie eventually comes back to you. Wow. See, that's why
you have to own that negative energy.
Yeah, it all comes back to you, and it will destroy you because you're putting out a false energy. And when you do that, you know, and anything that you've been working on will disappear because it will die of lack of attention. Because when you create anything, you have to create. When you're, say you plant a seed, you can't just forget, walk away and say, you know, that's it, I did it. You know, you got to monitor it, make sure that it's getting the right light, the right food, the right sunshine, the right energy, it's in the right spot. There's a lot of things you got to do. And when you tell the truth is there. It doesn't need anything. It just is. It's righteous. And I, you know, the way what I do, I look at the truth the way a musician looks at his instrument. Okay, before a musician will play anything, be it Mozart or anybody, the first thing they do is get that instrument in tune. When you get that instrument in tune, what you're doing is you're getting close to God, because the more in tune you are, the closer to this perfection, the perfect sound. Because the C note, for instance, has always been here. There's never been a time ever that C note did not exist, or the B or G or F, all those notes. The octave, by the way, there's eight octaves. Seven is a very magic number. Those numbers are very magical. But that has always been in the universe, in our world, in this great, vast, incredible world, you know, that we live in. And so when you, as a musician, that's why there's so. I was doing a kind of a study on all the great records that were ever played, the music was ever played. They were all, first of all, they were all the musicians, like the Beatles, Stones, and what's a group that did the Dark Side of the Moon?
Oh, Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd, all those guys. You know what they all, and David Bowie. You know what they all had in common? Do you know?
No.
LSD.
They all went to art school.
Ah,
Every one of them was an artist. Eric Clapton, John Lennon, every one of them went to art school. Sting, all art students. And so
I dropped out of art school.
yeah, there you go. Another artist. Art and the spiritual world are so connected, because all art really is a spiritual world made visible. You know, God made visible. You want to see God, you look at some of the masterpieces, art, and some of the local artists, you know, because it's God inspired. You see, that's what I call a sweet spot, is when you and God come together to create a song, a book, a poem, a joke, anything. It's that sweet spot that you and God meet, and when that happens, incredible things happen. But think about that. All the great musicians, and then the most music ever sold, The Dark Side of the Moon, for instance, was God inspired. It wasn't pre-written or pre-recorded or any of that. It wasn't a library that had been sitting around. It was guys that went into the studio with an idea, and that's where that idea. Another tune was "Kind of Blue" with Miles Davis. You know, that song sold more jazz records than any other record in history. Still selling. No one wrote it. Everybody contributed to this, to what Miles Davis had originally came up with. He had come up with a couple of ideas, and next thing you know, you got a record that's still selling to this day. I think it was released in 1954, 53. And it was done. It took a couple of hours one night. And it sold hundreds of millions of records. It's still being sold. Kind of Blue. All those great, all the Beatles songs, you know, God inspired, you know, they were together. The whole thing, the Stones, Rolling Stones, same thing. And the Stones, even they became drug addicts.
Didn't all those bands do LSD?
Yeah, but the Stones, they were dabbling with heroin, but they're still here today. Why? Because they were smart enough, somewhere, God inspired, to do blood transfusions. Did you hear about that? Where the Stones would have their blood changed, and so the addictive blood would be gone, and the new blood would be in their veins. That's how they conquered the drug addictions.
That's incredible.
The
Have you
first
ever
four you
gone
mentioned, like they all did LSD. Have you ever done LSD?
Oh yeah,
I have, and it opens my mind up. I don't do it anymore, but
that's why I'm with the lady I'm with now. She was just a friend, and we did LSD together, and we've been together over 50 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Have you ever gone through something really, really traumatic and you went inward to your spiritual self to get through it and had epiphany after epiphany?
Oh yeah. Well, when I went to prison, you know, see, I had no idea. You know, I'm a rule follower, and so when all of a sudden we got accused of selling bongs, and I was facing jail time, to the point where if I didn't plead guilty, they would go after my wife and my son. And so I've always known that I'd be in jail eventually. I didn't know what it was for. I knew it wouldn't be for anything criminal or anything violent. But I always had an epiphany that I'd be going to prison. And there I went. And that's really where I connected with God, because the first day, see, what happens with humans, we tend to pretend things aren't going the way they're going, especially if you're an optimist like me, you know. Like I'm not going to go to jail. I never did anything wrong. I never really broke any rules, you know. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about anything, you know. It was about George Bush trying to get reelected and lying about a war in Iraq. That was all it was. And they needed
The lady was from Pennsylvania, right? She had to find somebody. Somebody's going to jail.
Yeah, so they needed somebody to distract.
Yep. And then, so you went to jail, so I didn't have to, basically, and I appreciate it, because you're like a hero to me, because things have changed since then. But yeah.
No, it worked out great, because when I was there, the first night when I got into the bunk, you know, the little bunk they got, and I had a brick wall, and this was going to be my bed partner. The brick wall was going to be my bed partner for 9 months. I felt a little panicky, you know. I could feel the panic rising in me. And then when they locked the door, we were in a dormitory, and there's like 200 men in there, and then they lock. You could hear the door lock and clank, and the fear started gripping me. I could feel this panic coming up, and then all of a sudden, it was like someone threw a warm blanket over me, because I just felt the spirit. I felt the spirit just take over my whole body, and it was one of the nicest feelings I've ever had in my life. And it was just calmed me down. I went to sleep. Next thing I know, I'm listening to the intercom at the prison saying, calling everybody to the kitchen, you got, come on, Garcia, report to the kitchen, and then I woke up. And then I never had a bad day the whole time I was there because I was such a celebrity that it was from the time I woke up to the time I got out of there, I was just honored. Everywhere I went, people were smiling and give me, the high sign and try to get me high a bunch of times, but I never broke any rules. and I got the warden's confidence, the camp, and he let me do anything eventually. I could wander around the garden. I had free reign. I could get any kind of tool I wanted. I was making bongs in the garden out of clay, carving. I'm a carver.
You went to
Inside
jail for
carving.
bongs and you're making them in the garden.
Yeah, I made them there, and I tried to get the warden to free it. They had a kiln. They had an actual kiln where I could have baked them, and it was in the warehouse. But they were afraid that someone would get hurt, with the heat and everything. So they took it out, and I tried to get the warden to put it back in, but he was nice to me, but he wasn't going that far. And you know what they do? They look at see how long you've got to go, and if you're in there for a long time, well, they might give you what you asked for. But if you're in there for a few months, you don't get anything,
What are some funny stories from prison? Do you have anything funny that happened there?
Oh, we had quite a few good things happen. I ended up with in the same cubicle as the Wolf of Wall Street, which is Jordan Belford, and so we were buddies almost the whole time. Well, the whole time he was there for sure, and we. I was writing a book, and then he saw me writing, so I inspired him, and so he started writing his book. And then he showed me a page, that he'd written. And Jordan is a genius. There's no doubt about it. And so when he showed me his page, and all he did was copy the Bonfires of the Vanities, that book. And so I busted him on it. I'm very honest. I told him. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, you haven't really written shit, This is Bonfires of the Vanities. Very good, word for word, And so then he said, "What should I write?" I said, "Well, write those stories you've been telling me every night." And he said, he looked at me, he was interested, and he said, "Just the stories?" I said, "No, you got to make them." I said, "You're a fiction writer, and so make it bigger than." I said, "The most of rule." And what's that? I said, "The most of rule is that if you're going to get high, you're going to get higher than anybody in recorded history has ever done." Yeah. If you're going to, yeah, if you're going to, whatever you do. And so if you saw the Wolf of Wall Street, he followed my advice, because the cocaine scene, that he did, it really happened, where he got so high he couldn't.
Everything happens for a reason.
He couldn't
if he wouldn't
remember
have been
how
there to inspire him, he might not have had the movie come out.
Yeah, exactly.
If you wouldn't have been there, we wouldn't have had this awesome movie with Leonardo DiCaprio.
I told him, well, that's what he did when he got seriously into writing, because like I said, he is a genius, and so where I would write a few, an hour or so a day, Jordan was almost 24/7. He had so much to write about, all his adventures, and a lot of them never made the book, and they were incredible. So he's got another book there, And then he's now he's like a teacher of some sort, you know, industry, teaching people how to how to rob other people, I guess.
You know, like Bernie Madoff, I always think, how come didn't people understand that they were going to get ripped off? It was in his name. Like he made off with their money.
Yeah. Well, you know, the desire, money managers, you know, they're in a very precarious position because the people they manage money for, a lot of them got so much money they can't keep track. You see, and when you lose track of your income like that, you know, a lot of it can get diverted into other bank accounts. That's what happened to Bernie. You know, that Ponzi scheme was so, you know, he just set it up. But the trouble is with those guys, and this is what Jordan too, like Jordan Belford, he told me his beginning. You know, he started out, he was going to go to medical school because he was a genius that finished high school. I think he was like 11 years old, one of those guys, you know, and he was a child genius. And so he went to medical school. And the first day, the dean of the medical school told everybody, he said, listen, if you're here to make a lot of money, get up and leave now. And so Jordan got up and left. That was in medical school. And so then he started working odd jobs, and he told me some of the odd jobs he had. He would sell meat. He'd hustle meat. He would take a load of meat out into the suburbs, into the rich area of Long Island. And then he'd knock on the door and he'd tell the lady, you know, listen, I'm in trouble here. This people ordered all this meat, and now they canceled the order. He had some story. They moved, order something, and stuck with all this meat. And he was a really cute guy. And if he got the right lady, she'd say, well, okay, dear, well, I got a freezer here. Why don't I buy this for you? Then come on in here. Let me get you something warm. And, you know, and that's how he started off.
That's
and
like
then,
Julian from Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah. Then a friend of his pulled up one new Maserati or Corvette or something. And Jordan said, where'd you get that? He's, well, I'm a stockbroker. And so Jordan says, tell me more. And next thing you know, Jordan's a stockbroker. But he's, like I said, he's a genius. And so he figured out a way to make hundreds of millions of dollars by selling, by driving stock prices up and then dumping them and then doing it again, you know, and then selling them to all these suckers, and, you know, and he bankrupted a lot of people, but it was greedy people, you know, that
Exactly.
they wanted to make something for nothing. You know, that's what Madoff did. That's how he got where he got, you know, he was working on other people's greed, you know, and their laziness, that they wouldn't go check. They would rather take someone's word.
Look what happened
I'm
with,
guilty too.
look what happened with Bitcoin lately.
Yeah. Well, we don't know. The trouble with Bitcoin, it's not insured in any way. And so I used to work in a night, Treach and I, we worked in this nightclub called PJ's. And we were like the house comedians. They loved us so much. But we knew that if they had a good weekend, we'd had to get our money really, really fast. And the reason is that if they had a good weekend, somehow they'd get robbed. And somehow the thief would come and lock the janitors up in the office or whatever, and rob the place, take every money, all the money that came in that week, and some gangster got it. See? And so, and then the other scam they were selling the club. The club was always for sale, and they'd always got some sucker in there. And I felt sorry for this one guy, and so I tried to tell him, that it was a separate move. You're not, it's not on the up and up. But the guy he did not want to listen to me. He was too. He went for the lie, and then I looked at him and I realized I was told this a long time ago by a bodybuilder, and when I tried to show another bodybuilder how to do something, and the old guy told me, he says, "Hey, save your breath." There's some people you can't tell them anything, and they just have to learn the hard way. That's what I'm talking about, mistakes. Yeah. So that's you're going to have that in this physical world of ours. You're going to have the thieves, and you're going to have the victims, and everybody's learning. The thieves are learning. The victims are learning.
That makes sense.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned from somebody that wasn't on the up and up?
The biggest lesson?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you never know by appearances. Don't let appearances fool you. Yeah. I think the biggest lesson I learned when I did a little cartoon called Zootopia. It's a little cartoon. And in the cartoon, they had all the animals. You had the hippopotamus, you had elephants, you had yaks. I played a yak in this one. And
my kids love that movie.
yeah, it's an incredible movie. Incredible. Well, the lesson I learned was that there's room for everybody on this planet. The big, the tiny, the in-between, the round, the straight. Everybody, there's a place for everybody. The tiniest mouse to the biggest elephant. Everybody is connected on this planet. And not only the animals and the people, but the plants. We're connected.
Wow.
The plants are connected. The roots, they talk to each other. That's the world that they live in. And because we're in a physical world, everybody gets their energy somehow from the sun, and some from the darkness. So that's a lesson I learned, and we're just one part of this whole scheme of things, and not to worry about anything, because this too shall pass.
You know what I want your take on? Say somebody has a lot of physical ailments. They're in a lot of physical pain. I'm in a lot of physical pain. But when I go up on stage and I'm telling jokes, I don't have any pain.
You're with God.
Oh, I love that.
You're with God. He's right there. He's right there.
Oh my gosh, that's so encouraging.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And you can be with God anytime you want. It's all in your mind. It's a thought. That's how you heal.
Wow.
Because your body will heal. See, this is why cannabis is so good for people with ailments, is because a lot of people with ailments, the effect, the pain, just the thought of having something growing inside you or not doing you well can be devastating.
Yep.
If you don't give that thought to God. You see, this is where God comes in handy, because all you have to do is transfer everything over to God, and He will perfect that which concerns you. And that is the message. Now, very important that, like you said, the Jews refused to even utter the word God because it's so holy. That in itself can be, well, what you don't want to do ever. You know that there's a phrase called ask and ye shall receive. There's never been a phrase that says just blurt out anything at any time. You see, don't answer a question unless someone asks you it. In other words, if someone doesn't ask you about God, definitely don't say a word about it. Don't mention it, because that's what the Jews were saying when that word is so important, that you only mention it if you have the right thought of what you're talking about, And that's why they said, in the Bible, blasphemy or take his name in vain. You see, that can get you in more trouble, because instead of helping you get out of the ditch, it got you further in.
I tell a lot of what I think are real funny jokes about God and Jesus, and I don't feel bad about it. Even though I like God and Jesus, I think they're funny. What's your take on that?
Again, it's your attitude. It's what your aim. What are you trying to do? You're trying to get a laugh? No problem.
Sometimes I don't need that joke to get the laugh. I just want to say the joke out loud,
Well, again,
well, they work.
Again, you're playing. See, those are words. It's
And I know my words project my inner self too, is what I mean, so
absolutely. That's why people either like you or don't like you on stage. They can smell the fear or the insecurity, but if someone's up there and enjoying themselves, it's fun watching people enjoy.
That's why I do it.
Yeah.
Oh, like Jesus's dad, they did a DNA test on him, and they found out his real dad was an Italian guy. Did you hear about that?
No.
Yeah. Well, he was a godfather.
The Godfather.
He made a Joseph an offer he couldn't refuse. He said, "You come to me on the day of my cousin's wedding and ask me to turn water into wine. I knew it was you, Judas. You broke my heart." But what if he talked like a different Italian guy? Like, what if he talked like Mario from Mario Brothers, and he said, "Hey, it's me, Jesus.
Yeah, that's
He
good.
was without sin, cast to the first shell. Yippee!
That's
I
good.
knew it was you, Luigi. You broke
that's
my
funny.
heart."
No, that's good. That's all in good taste, all in good fun. No, the other commandment, like George Carlin was talking about, is 10 commandments, but there's a couple that I really latched on to, and judge not. I love this one. I love this. It saved me so many times lately. I've been just concentrating on it lately, because there's good in everything. Just like when Trump says there's nice people on both sides, when he's talking about the Nazis. It wasn't exactly, what he said is true in a spiritual sense. But at the time, because everybody's equal spiritually, there's no difference. We're all the same. It's when we're in physical form, and there may be nice people on both sides, but there are also really bad people on both sides. and at that time, most of the bad people were on Trump's side, because they were, anytime you get a group of people marching against another race of people, that's not a good idea. That's not saying any kind of truth. All you're doing is really inciting a horrible and very dangerous lie. You know that for some cockamamie reason that white people would be superior to anybody. You know, when you think about it,
Crazy.
Because when slavery ended, you know who really benefited? It was the black people, because they were the only ones that did the work, that knew what the fuck to do with those plantations. None of the white guys knew what to do.
Yeah, you lost your skill talent, gone.
Gone. Their only skill was being brutal and brutalizing people, and that's why the Civil War, when at the end of the Civil War, the Southerners come back. That's why they're so pissed off, because they had lost everything. They lost their status, their land, their everything, and that's why they went rogue the way they did. Jesse James. That's what created Jesse James. Yep.
I'm related to him.
Yeah.
Hey, I want my dad to be he wanted to see if he could say hi to you real quick.
Your
This
dad?
is my dad. He lives with me. Say hi to Tommy Chong.
Hi, Tommy John.
Hey, what's your name?
Jim.
Bill?
Jim.
Yeah. Hey, buddy,
Tim.
how you doing?
How old are you, Tim?
Great.
He's 83.
83?
Wow.
Yeah. You're 83, right?
83?
Right.
Yeah.
Are you in good shape? Everything okay?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
He said, "Are you in good shape?"
Yeah, well, for an 83-year-old guy, I'd say I'm not bad.
Not good for you, man. Well, you got a good chair. I see that.
You got a good chair, he said.
Huh?
He said you got a nice chair.
Thank you.
He's the one that let me start watching Tommy Chong when I was a little 8-year-old kid.
Of course. Of course. Good for him.
It started with the Corsico brothers, and then he let me watch everything Cheech and Chong.
Oh, he's a cool guy. Dad's a cool guy.
He loves you, man.
What did he do before?
Oh, my dad was a bus driver his whole life, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
He was an accountant in New York for a little while. He lived in Chicago for 16 years, where he met my mom. That's where I got born.
Oh, yeah. Jewish?
No, he's from a little farm town, a little Christian farm town in Quincy, Michigan. It's near
Oh, yeah.
Coldwater.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and do you have a brothers, sisters?
I got a brother and a sister. Brian lives in Chicago, and Julie lives in Chicago. My mom's side of the family's from Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
He's a country boy and met a city girl. Then they moved to Grand Rapids. That's where I grew up at.
Yeah, I know Grand Rapids. Yeah, Gerald Ford country.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. We used to play there a lot, in the comedy club there. Love that place.
Dr. Grins.
It had a skating rink or something next to it. One of the clubs. Oh, that was many years ago.
Orbit Room. The Orbit Room.
Yeah, do you remember?
Yeah. I saw Slayer there, ICP, Kid Rock. I saw
Yeah.
Kid Rock there. I never saw more boobies in my face at one time in my life. Every girl had their shirt off. It was crazy.
Ah, Kid Rock, huh?
Yeah, it was crazy. That was a long time ago.
Yeah. So did you get your comedy there? Did you start comedy there?
I started comedy at Side Splitters my first time 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Oh, not too long ago.
The great nature boy Ric Flair used to sit at my bar and he talked me into it. That's a funny story, but this is about Linda. I don't want to tell it right now. But he basically talked me into doing stand-up. The Nate.
Good for him.
I love that guy.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Ric Flair. And what's your
Was he
story?
there when you were on Monday Night Raw?
Yeah.
Was he there that night?
He could have been.
I just remember the little dwarf. He's funny.
Oh man, there were so many. Man, some of those guys, that the black guy, Hanks, Mark, or whatever his name is.
Mark Henry.
Widest guy I've never seen anybody that wide.
Mark Henry, yeah. world's
Yeah.
strongest man. He
Yeah.
broke a bunch of world records.
Wow, he was huge. Man. I had a godmother that used to collect all the autographs of all the wrestlers. And back in the day, you know, in the 40s and 50s, she traveled the world on boat like everybody else did. You know, they would take ships to England and that's where on the boat, she'd be on the boat and she'd see these wrestlers and she'd get their autograph and then she'd send them to me. It was really sweet of her. Then I had a
That's how I
girlfriend.
got Rick's. And that's how he talked me into doing comedy. He was giving away autographs, photo autographs at my bar. And we'd been buddies for like 5 years at that point. He was just giving them away to people and signing them and stuff. And then my bartender got one. The other guy I was working with him, like, we're not supposed to ask for those. And he did. And then I finally asked Nate, I'm like, Nate, because if you're his friend, he wants you to call him Nate. So I said, you got to call me Mac James. That's my rap name. Well, now it's my stage name. He's like, all right. And then I was like, who do I got to wrestle to get you to sign one of those for me, man? There was one left. That's why I freaked out, you know. And I'm a wrestling fan my whole life. All these other people handed him out, they were just like, they knew he was a household name, you know. So he's like, come here, James. And I had to come around the bar. And he'd already bought me like 5 double shots while I was bartending. I was drunk. He was drunk. He drank Pinot Noir out of a chilled pint glass, and he would do shots of it. Ooh. It was gangster. He drank like 5 bottles. He's like, come here. And he grabbed me by the shoulders. He's like, hey, James, you should take your jokes that you write and get on stage with them and stop telling them at your bar. I was like, all right. He's like, promise me you'll do it and I'll sign that for you. I'm like, all right, cool, man. I promise. He's like, you're real funny, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you like slapstick? And then he goes and lays his signature chest slap on me. And it hurt and almost knocked me over. And I used to wrestle too. I pulled my shirt up when I got home. Oh, look, I got a 6-pack shaved on my chest. Yeah, the imprint right there. It was crazy. I took a picture of it. And that's when I started doing stand-up.
Oh, good for you, man. It just took a slap in the chest to get you going.
Starts with a slap on your ass when you're born, and then a slap on the chest to get into comedy.
That's good. Well, listen, I gotta scoot.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it
Thank you,
so
Tony.
much. You're my
Bye.
favorite human being.
Oh, thank you, darling.
That
Love
was
you.
an amazing experience. I love listening to you.
Me too.
Okay, take care now.
We'll
Thank you,
share it.
Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me be a part of your 1000th episode. That was an insightful conversation. It was one of the greatest conversations I ever had.
It's so mind blowing. I get into it and I start meditating on what he's saying. I like lose myself in his thoughts.
I was mesmerized.
It was so great. I hope people listen to it, because, he's he's got a lot to say and a lot of wisdom.
He's a prophet.
He is. I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to get a whole ship full of people and go on a cruise where he speaks every night? He just talks. You give him the microphone, he just talks and talks. I would never want to go to my stateroom. I'd want to sit there and see what he's going to say next. He is. He's like a prophet.
It was an amazing conversation.
Yeah. We got a few words in edgewise.
Oh, yes. I'm glad he said hi to my dad. That was nice.
That was so special. He took a special interest in both of us, and that was really awesome too. He didn't have to be so nice,
He loved you. When he was on our radio show, he raved about you.
Oh,
He was super awesome.
what?
And I appreciate you letting me get a chance to interview him.
Oh, are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. I wouldn't think of not letting you. I think the world of you, James.
Oh,
Thank you
you're gonna
so
make me
much.
blush.